things going forward. So Sakai 2.9 is really our first overall release where the user interface is market leading out of the box. It's gorgeous. It's really pretty. It's our first release with any kind of structured content with the lesson builder capability. We literally didn't have this feature until 2.9. It's kind of amazing. And it's our first release that's had decent support for interoperability standards. Here we are, an open source organization. We should be the first to support these interoperability standards, but we're not. But that's okay. Sakai 2.9 gets us to the point where we are supporting those standards. So Sakai 2.9, going back to Darcy Norman's law, it's our first learning management system. We finally match. People can look at, say, okay, here's all the other ones in the marketplace, and here's Sakai, and it's a pretty decent one, right? And people can choose it, and people can use it, and they won't say, wow, I'm missing major functionality because I've chosen Sakai. Now, the reality is Sakai is not a clone, right? Sakai has added the features to appear in the marketplace, but Sakai has not lost the features that have made it unique from the beginning. For example, we are the best far and away at combining research, collaboration, and learning in a single system. It is by far the best in the marketplace at doing that. It's one of the use cases that we saw as a founding use case, and I don't think we've lost a step in those use cases, and we've certainly gotten even better at that. It's one of the most powerful and flexible role systems, particularly because it spans from learning to non-learning kinds of activities extremely naturally and reflects the complexity of teaching and learning in higher education. It's highly customizable for local needs. Higher education, places like Oxford, they're going to change their learning management system. They don't want just one piece of software. It's not one size fits all. It's not a word processor. This is the essence of teaching and learning. The software that supports teaching and learning at a place like a Michigan or a Stanford or an Oxford has got to reflect the values of the organization, period, right? You can't say, oh, well, we bought something and we don't want to reflect the values of the organization because we bought it and it's teaching and learning. Bah humbug, So the point is, it's customizable, and you can even upgrade after you customize it, which is pretty rare in enterprise software. And we are indeed the only real Apache Bazaar style open source organization on the planet. Okay, we are not only an open source license, but we are an open community with meritocracy as our core driving organizing principle and no other organizing principle. So we are unique, we are distinct, and we are as good as everybody else, and that's great. We also, along with Moodle, have the best worldwide penetration in terms of diversity. Companies like Blackboard are in, Europe and the larger markets, but the beauty of open source is we are naturally gravitated towards any market and every market, and if there is 3 schools in Turkey, then by golly, there will be a Turkish translation, period. And there doesn't have to be a bunch of schools. We don't have to convince a sales manager that it's worth it. We have lots and lots of different translations. Moodle has more than we do, but no one else has as many other than Moodle as we do. So that's an essential value proposition of open source that commercial folks are going to make trade-offs that we don't have to make. The people in Turkey can make their Turkish translation, and that is that. They control their own destiny, and yet they don't have to write the whole software. They just have to maintain the translation. So this is something that we should not lose sight of, right? It's not just the American market. It's not just the market share. It's the fact that we are serving enterprise needs around the world in ways that, who's going to write the Pakistan version of Blackboard, right? Why would you ever do that? But for us, we've got 2 installations. So that's important. That's a value that we have. The other thing that's really cool is that we are uniquely higher education. We've been unsuccessful, not that we have no customers in secondary education or continuing further education, but we we're strongest in higher education, and it shows if you look at the schools that have the top 20 schools, 25 schools in the learning management systems that they use. Sakai, by a large margin, is the most popular learning management system among the world's leading universities, and that's, I think, very exciting. As I mentioned, we are open, open, open. We are open source, open community, open planning, open everything, right? We are guided by a group called the TCC, the Technical Coordination Committee. We hope to rename that soon to the PMC, the Project Management Committee. Rutgers and Stanford are not represented on the TCC, but I want to call attention to their tremendous contributions. This is a group. Often open source ends up with a benevolent dictator. We have not taken that as our strategy. Our strategy has been to create a group, a committee of the committed, the people who are working and have proven for some nearly 10 years now that they believe strongly in the needs of the community above their own, at times even their own organization's needs. These are not the people who feel the sense of power. These are the people who feel a sense of responsibility, people who feel like it is their job to make sure that these patches work. And so this is the heart and soul of the Sakai community, and not necessarily sitting in judgment above the Sakai community, but instead serving the entire Sakai community. I should talk a little bit about my role in Blackboard. My official position in Blackboard is the Sakai Chief Strategist. That's it, something like that. There was a time back toward the beginning of 2012 that it seemed to me as though Sakai 2.9 was never going to happen. And I was really unhappy and upset about that because I felt that we had put so much work into Sakai up to that point, but we had not quite reached the escape velocity. That if Sakai 2.8 was the last release of Sakai, and we didn't have things like Lesson Builder and Common Cartridge Import and Export and things like that, I felt like the job was incomplete. I felt like I would personally be really disappointed that we'd stopped. And so I was in a position in early 2012 where it's like I wanted to find any and all resources that I could to ensure that Sakai 2.9 would actually succeed. And so when Blackboard approached me to join them, what they offered me is the resources I needed to help finish Sakai 2.9. Not to finish it, but to help finish it. So that is what got me involved in Blackboard. Now, I continue to work at Blackboard to do things working on Sakai, and I continue to work on Sakai. Blackboard pays me to work on Sakai, and Blackboard supports Sakai in other ways as well. But I also continue to work bringing open standards in and out of Blackboard as well. So that's kind of the Blackboard thing. Now, the interesting thing is Sakai 2.9 came out. I can't take a lot of credit, and Blackboard certainly can't take a lot of credit. They take some, but other people, other wonderful people on the TCC and in the community have done a great job of Sakai 2.9. So I could